Hey, I'm gonna make buttermilk pie today, so follow along. Today we're making buttermilk pie, one of my favorites. Great southern pie, so yummy. Some people call it a chess pie. I call it buttermilk. So I'm gonna start with my 3 cups of flour. My crust. This pie crust recipe makes 2, and my buttermilk pie recipe makes 2. So this is gonna be very simple. So I've got 3 cups of flour. I'm gonna put about, I don't know, this much salt, like maybe 2 teaspoons or so, maybe a bit more. And I'm going to blend that together. Flour. I'm going to take out about a 1/2 cup of this. It doesn't need to be exact, but about a 1/2 cup. Put it in a smaller container. Get a 1/2 cup of water and add it to that. Okay, so now I have 1/2 cup of water in with a 1/2 cup of the salt and flour mix. Okay, now I'm going to put in about a cup of shortening. A cup is generally about the size of a fist, so I kind of eyeball it because, you know, depending on weather, sometimes you need a little bit more. So that's looking pretty good. Then you cut in with your cutter, straight down, no mixing, just straight down. I'll come back after this is broken down. I'm going to just keep pushing straight down, straight down, straight down, over and over again until it's kind of like a thick, I don't know. Some people say cornmeal, but I think if you go all the way to cornmeal, then that's been overmixed. So I don't like it quite that mixed in. I'm pressing straight against the sides like this so that it's not breaking it down, because I want to get some nice layers of flour and shortening together. Without squishing them. I don't want them to become one. I want them to become layered. Okay. So this is about what I want this to look like. So there's not a bunch of powder left, right? The flour is mixed out. So now my flour and my water mix is going to go in. I'm going to get out most of the lumps. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now, most recipes are going to call for water, but I have never found it mixes in very well when you add it straight into the flour. So this is why I do it this way. I think it just makes a lot more sense, and it can combine in with the rest of your dough a lot better without absorbing straight into part of the flour and then leaving the other part of the flour like without water. And anyway, it's just a recipe for disaster because you have to overmix it. And remember, the key to a good pie crust that's flaky is to not overmix it. Look how nicely this is already coming together here. So I'm just going to mix it enough to get that water all mixed in, all cut in, I should say, because I keep telling you I don't want you to mix it. So, okay. Not overmixed, just put together enough. And this is what this should look like now at this point, right? Now I'm going to combine these together into 2 balls. Some of this is a little wet still. Okay. And get these sized correctly so that these will be evenly. I think this one's a little bit too big. So we get them both the same size. And now I'm just going to press this together. Just press and press and press. I don't want any air bubbles or any weird seams to come out in my pie dough when I'm rolling it. So I'm just pressing it. And I just kind of press it out like this a little bit. Okay, so I've just got, put a little flour down and set this to the side. And this one, before I form it, I'm going to go ahead and get all the stuff out of the bowl. We don't need to leave anything to waste. Okay. Do the same thing with this one. This one I'm going to go ahead and put my flour out on my surface, and I'm going to squeeze it a little more so that I can start rolling it out for you. I'm going to pause this so that I can get my pie dishes out because I'm going to need to have those ready, and get my roller ready. And okay, we are ready to roll here. So we're going to put plenty of flour down. I love having music on when I'm working in the kitchen. It just makes me so happy. More flour. If it peels up or anything happens, just put it back in place and keep rolling. Remember, the shortening kind of acts like a little bit of a paste anyway, so it is pretty forgiving. As long as you don't overwork it, you should be good. I'm going to clean off my roller here. It's getting a little gummy. This doesn't need to be a perfect circle. It just needs to be close enough. Let me see if this is feeling level. It feels a little thick over here. Okay, I've got my pie pan here, and I'm going to roll my pie dough up onto my roller. This is the best way to get it into the pie dish. Just roll it up and then leave it over the edge a little bit because I made it bigger than the pan. And then unroll it. Very simple. Okay, I'm going to lift the edges up in order for it to kind of fall down in place. You don't ever want to press down on the dough because you don't want it to stretch and break. And you want it to stay evenly distributed. So I'm going to press it down like this. I'm going to take the edge and press down so that it goes down into this corner. Okay. And I'm going to start rolling this under. You can see that it's a little uneven in some places, so I'm adding as I go. Okay, you can trim this edge if you want to make it nice and even, but I'm not super concerned about that. I don't mind having a nice thick crust to chew on and crunchy. It's so good. So I'm just going around tucking this under as I go. We're going to even this up in just a minute, so don't worry right now about that. Just rolling it under once. It's going to be so good. Okay, now I'm going to go around and I'm just going to kind of even these up. If it feels a little thicker in some places, just kind of squeeze it around and even it out with your fingers. You might want to tuck it under a little bit. Might be higher in some places. Like I said, the beauty of this is that this is a homemade pie. You want it to look homemade, right? Anybody can bring a perfect pie to a party because it's from the store. So I love having a homemade pie look like a homemade pie. Okay, this is even now. So now I'm gonna do my little, grab your finger, put one finger in between here and just make a little fluted edge. This edge is gonna go over the top of my glass so that it kind of holds my dough in place so that when the shortening starts to break down and do its thing with the flour, that the pie dough, the crust stays in place and doesn't shrink down into the bottom of your dish. This also holds that, it kind of crimps those two edges that you just folded under, crimps those together, and just looks beautiful. All right, so here you go. These are just the little extras from my fingers here that I can brush out. And we are ready for some pie filling. So here we go. Okay, we are ready to make our buttermilk pie filling. So we're going to do 3 tablespoons of flour and 3 cups of sugar. Hope I have 3 cups of sugar. I may not. Okay, we've got 2 1/4 cups. Let me go see if I can find some more sugar. Okay, I found my sugar bag. I think I'm gonna have another 3/4 cups here. So, perfect. Yes. Okay. We've got 3 cups of sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, and now we are going to, I'm just gonna kind of mix this a little bit first. And then we're gonna add in 1½ sticks of softened butter. And then I'm going to mix this together with my mixer here. Get all the butter in there. Oops. I think I've got these on the wrong ones here. KitchenAid, and I use it for some things like big batches of frosting or big batches of cake, but you know, it's hard to beat a good hand mixer. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. My butter was frozen because I forgot to get it out earlier, so I'm going to have a few little clumps, little balls of butter that I'm going to be trying to break down here. I'm going to cut them with a knife, try to get them a little bit smaller here. Break them down. The next thing that we're going to add are 6 eggs. So we're going to add those one at a time and I'm going to beat the whole thing well after I add each one. So I don't know that you want to watch all of that, all 6 eggs. So I'm going to mix this a little bit better here. We're just trying to mix in the sugar and the butter at this point. Kind of break it down together. Okay, again, I'm going to do this 6 times. I'm going to beat well after each one, and I'll come back to you in just a second.
There's nothing better than starting your day with a drink packed full of nutrients.
Okay, I've got 6 eggs, each mixed a little bit after I added them in, scraping the bowl down each time to make sure that we've got it very evenly distributed. I'm going to add just a pinch of salt, just a tiny bit, and I've got a sink over here, by the way, so you don't think I'm just throwing my eggshells into the wind. I'm going to add a cup of buttermilk. Let me get a full cup. This is going to give it this just a little bit of this kind of a tangy flavor. I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't taste sour. It's still very sweet, but man, it's really good. I'm going to add a few drops of almond extract. That was a little. I might even add a little more. And I'm going to tell you my secret ingredient is Mexican vanilla, but not just any Mexican vanilla. This brand, Dancy, is... there's no words for how amazing and delicious it is. It just has this, I don't even know how to describe it, but I'm going to add a generous 1.5 teaspoons. That was probably a tablespoon, which is fine with me. I think that you can get that on Amazon. I'll try to link it in my, or I'll put it in my storefront if it's still available on there. I'm just going to mix this together now. And I'm going to put just a tiny bit more almond extract in. One other option that you can do with this, if you want to, is you can melt a square of baker's chocolate and add it to this for a chocolate buttermilk pie. It's very delicious. I have noticed though that it separates, so it's not going to look like it's all, it will look like it's all chocolate, but during baking time, it will separate so that your chocolate ends on the bottom and your clear or your vanilla color ends up on top. So it looks kind of cool. But today we're just doing regular buttermilk pie. So again, I'm going to scrape this down, make sure I've got it all mixed together. And I'm going to pour this into my 2 pie shells that are ready to go. My oven has been heating at 325, and it's just waiting for me to get my act together and get the pies over there. You can see the glistening butter in this pie. It's so delicious looking even now before it's baked. There's something about combining that buttermilk and that butter that's just delicioso. Should have gotten my bigger spatula out, but to me she's gone. Okay, we are ready to rumble. Hopefully these are even. I think I have a little bit more in that one, but a little off of this. Spread it out to see. I don't know if you guys can hear my music. I might just be lip syncing to nothing. I think I'm crazy. I am crazy. Okay, I'm going to shake these a little bit just to make sure they're even. And I'm going to put these in the oven at 325, and they're going to bake for about 40 to 50 minutes. You don't want them to, what I do is I just kind of jiggle them a tiny bit, make sure the center is not really wet looking. And then when that stops, then I know that they're done. So sometimes it takes longer, it just kind of depends. But they'll get a nice golden brown. It'll look like a creme brulee over the top. That's what you'll be looking for. So, all right, I'll show you what they look like in a minute. Okay, I just took the pies out of the oven. This is what they look like when they are done. You can see that the center, when I wiggle it, it's not jiggling anymore. So it kind of bubbles up in the oven. Don't worry about that. It's going to kind of calm down a little. And you can serve it either warm or you can serve it cold or room temperature. Really, you can eat it any way you want to. It's kind of like pumpkin pie that way. If you want to let it cool and cover the whole top with whipped topping or fresh whipped cream, you can do that, or you can just eat it like this. I promise you, you will love this pie. It is so easy and delicious.